morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told how to voice the radio. So today, we need to have a good old chat about the new set, which is coming to Japan soon. Yes, I am fully aware that it's only been a couple of days since I showed you the first English cards from Pokemon Sword and Shield. Think things like Snorlax VMAX, for instance. But I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the news when the news is there to be brought, and unfortunately, or fortunately, because I kind of like this, we now have the VMAX Rising pack artwork. So we need to talk about the Japanese set, which is going to be coming out in February. Now, what's really important here, to begin with, they've changed the name. Originally, it was going to be called V Rising. It's now been rebranded as VMAX Rising. Now, this shouldn't be a huge surprise to you. Remember, Pokemon VMAX were officially revealed on Wednesday. Before Wednesday, we had seen a snippet of Zamazenta V. It was shown off at the World Championships, and there was a blurry little picture where you could just about read part of the ability, and you could see that it alluded to Pokemon VMAX. But that was it, right? Pokemon VMAX were not officially a thing. So because of that, it's not terribly surprising that they didn't call the set VMAX Rising initially. I mean, one way to look at it is they lied to us, and they did in a way. They gave us the wrong name. But then, by the same token, if they'd given us the right name, it would have spoiled their reveal. So yes, they did technically lie to us. They gave us the wrong name, but they had to. There is a possibility that they did just change their mind after a little while, but this seems like the kind of thing they had to do. Similarly, last time they showed us the pack art, it looked like this, which again had to be the case, because if we look at the new pack art, it features Inteleon, Rillaboom, and Scorbunny, that were the, at the time, unreleased or unrevealed Stage 2 evolutions of Grookey, Sobble and Scorbunny, and it just wouldn't have been cricket, to use an English phrase, if they went and showed this off beforehand. So, arguably yes, but no. I think this is absolutely fair. They wanted us to know the set was coming, they needed to tell retailers what to expect, but then they were like, look, just bear with us, right? It'll all make sense later, and now it kind of does. Now, of course, the set in Japan, which is just coming out, is Sword and Shield 1, and that is dropping in December. It's actually dropping on Friday, December the 8th. No, 6th. December the 6th. And this is coming out in February, which is to say that Japan is changing their release schedule. During the Sun and Moon era, it was main set, mini set, mini set. One main set, two mini sets every 3 months. There was a new set every month. Well, that is changing with Sword and Shield. Now, there's been no official announcement, but it looks pretty straightforward here, that now they're going main set, break, mini set. Main set, break, mini set. Now, what is really, really interesting to me here is that this is coming out on February the 7th, which will be the release date of Sun and Moon 1. I say will be, it's already been announced. It is the release date of the Sun and Moon expansion. So that leads to the obvious, exciting, nay, tantalizing question. Is there any possibility that we will get a synchronized worldwide release of VMAX Rising? Could it be that VMAX Rising is going to be in our Sun and Moon set? Like I've said, VMAX Rising in Japan launches on the 7th of February. Our Sun and Moon 1 set launches on the 7th of February. So we would still be left 2 months behind Japan in terms of their Sun and Moon set, but we would then sync up with them very, very nicely indeed. Could that be happening? I mean, look, there is an argument that it might be happening. Firstly, release dates have been getting closer and closer together. Secondly, it would make it much easier. I mean, when we get around to the World Championships, Japan has been playing with cards for a couple of months that we've literally just got. So it would be kind of nice to sync it all up as much as we can. We can only sync it up properly if we get main set, month off, mini set. And we're just not moving to that. We have one big set every 3 months. So we can't sync up properly. but we could sync up a little bit. Now, if we take a look at Snorlax VMAX, we can see it is number 142 out of 202. Which means we've got 202 cards in our set. We're not counting secret rares. Now, over in Japan, Sword and Shield had 60 cards in each, which gave 120 cards, which means they're 82 cards short. I think some of the secret rares that Japan count as secret and not in the set numbers, we do put in the set numbers, but that's a very small amount. We'll ignore it. Let's not worry about that for now. Now, we know that VMAX Rising has approximately 70 cards. So when you add in a couple that Japan count as secret that we don't, maybe a couple promos, etc., that would take us up to 202 cards, and that would mean that we would actually be getting a worldwide simultaneous release of VMAX Rising on the 7th of February. Japan as a separate set, North America, Europe, and so on, incorporated into Sword and Shield 1. Is there a strong argument against this? Unfortunately, there is. Because you see, a couple weeks before Sun and Moon launched, Japan got V decks. These were a series of 5 decks, each featured around one Pokemon V, and a bunch of other cards. And unfortunately, if you add up all of the cards in those 5 V decks, it comes to about 80. And here's the thing. If those cards from the V deck don't find their way over into Sword and Shield 1, how are we getting them? Now, there were rumours for a while, although I do feel that these may have been rumours that were wishful thinking rather than anything that's actually been said officially, or even unofficially. There were rumours that we would just get the V decks, that these things would be released as their own standalone products over here, as they were in Japan. I've heard nothing. And I'm a man that is constantly looking at basically every channel of news for the Pokemon trading card game, and I have heard nothing. So I don't think that's happening. Which means one of two things is going to happen. Either our Sun and Moon 1 set is going to be what was in the V decks, plus what was in Japan's Sword and Shield set, or sets are actually separate sets, weirdly. And then VMAX Rising will be incorporated into our Sun and Moon 2 set, or VMAX Rising will be in Sun and Moon 1, and the V-Decks will come along later. Now, I'll be honest with you, it's really, really looking like we're getting the V-Decks. If you want some other, well, I'd say proof, but it just makes me sad to say that. But if you want better proof that the V-Decks are going to be incorporated into our main set, if we look at the theme decks for Sword and Shield that I showed you in a video earlier on today, both the Inteleon and Rillaboom theme decks feature the Pokemon from the V-Decks. Weirdly, the Cinderace theme deck is not featuring the Cinderace from the V-Decks. It's just a promo, which is a little bit weird. But, yeah, unfortunately. Which means that we're going to be getting VMAX Rising incorporated into our Sword and Shield 2 set, just like in the Sun and Moon era, where Sun and Moon 1A was in our Sun and Moon 2. Sun and Moon 2A was in our Sun and Moon 3, etc. Or to put a timeline on it, we will be getting Japan's main sets 2 months late. They get it in December, we get it in February. And their mini sets 3 months late. They get it in February, we get it in May. Boo, hiss, etc. The other thing we can see here is that on the front of the pack, as we previously mentioned, we got Inteleon, Rillaboom, and Cinderace. Does that mean we are getting V and VMAX cards of Inteleon, Cinderace, and Rillaboom? Probably. I mean, look. The general rule is, whatever is on the front of the pack gets a chase card. So to go back to the Sword and Shield packs, they feature Zacian and Zamazenta, and in Sword and Shield we get Zacian V and Zamazenta V. So the fact that the 3 of them are on the front of the pack means that we will get V versions of those Pokemon. The really interesting question to me, will they be basic Pokemon? If we go back to the EX era, this was a more recent Big E, Big X, they were all basic Pokemon. So something like Gardevoir, which is a Stage 2 Pokemon, came through as an EX, which was a basic because all EXs were basics. Whereas in the GX era, Gardevoir came through as a Stage 2 because Gardevoir's a Stage 2. But we know that the VMAX are extra evolution. Snorlax V evolves into Snorlax VMAX. Which means that if they were Stage 2s, we would essentially be rolling with Stage 3 VMAXs, which would be rubbish. We saw this in the Break era, and it did work for Greninja because it had so much extra help, but generally speaking, they were essentially Stage 3s and they were unplayable. We have only seen Pokemon V so far from Pokemon that are naturally basics. We do not have an answer to whether they will be basics or not. But we know that Charizard has a Gigantamax form. We know that they're going to do a Gigantamax Charizard card, because why would they not? I mean, it's Charizard, right? So, I think they've got to all be basics. This is unconfirmed. The second question is, will we get VMAX versions of Inteleon, Rillaboom and Cinderace, bearing in mind they do not have Gigantamax forms? Now, the first few VMAX Pokemon we were shown were Meowth, and Lapras, and Snorlax, all of which are Gigantamax Pokemon. So the first VMAXs we saw were all Gigantamax. So we didn't know if you could possibly have a VMAX card of a Pokemon that did not have a Gigantamax form. Now we do. We've seen Morpeko and Stonejourner, both of which have VMAX cards which are their Dynamax forms, because they do not have Gigantamax forms. And if we look at the booster pack art, we can see those little weird cloud things above their heads or around their heads, which show that they are Dynamax versions. So I feel extremely confident saying that we will be getting VMAX versions of those three Pokemon. Plus, let's face it, the set is literally called VMAX Rising. Why would they put Pokemon on the front of the pack that didn't have VMAXs? That would be weird. So to sum up, yes, we're getting Vs of those three. Yes, we're getting VMAXs of those three featuring their Dynamax forms. And I predict that we will see all Vs being basic, but we just have no answer. We will definitely get our answer in this set, but as it stands at the moment, the answer I've given you is conjecture, as any answer would naturally have to be. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's over to you. I want to know your theories. I want to know your predictions. I want to know what you're excited about from VMAX Rising. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are still awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.